Have you ever stopped to consider whether you're truly in control of your life or if you're just playing the role you've been given? Think about it. If you don't control the game, you're just a piece that reacts, waits for instructions, seeks approval, and ultimately lets the world write its script. How many times have you found yourself doing something just because it was expected of you? How many times have you suppressed a dream, an idea, or even your own voice because you were afraid of what people would think? Well, on this board of life, those who don't play consciously become just part of the decoration. And that's what I want to poke at now. Are you being the player, or just another disposable piece that no one remembers later? If this question has ever touched you, comment below. Game. Just so I know you've felt, at least once, that feeling of just reacting without actually making a decision. Don't be ashamed, because the truth is, everyone has been there at some point. Me, you, anyone. But there's a difference between waking up and sleeping on autopilot, and I'm here precisely to give you this reality check. If you don't hold the reins, someone else will. Think about it. Every time you procrastinate, every time you let an opportunity slip by, every time you prefer to please others instead of being true to what you truly want, you're handing the board over to someone else. And whoever controls the board controls the game. It's no wonder so many people's lives seem repetitive, meaningless, always in the same cycle of dissatisfaction and frustration. Because when you only react, you don't create. And without creation, there is no freedom. The truth is hard, but liberating. Most people don't play, they just participate. But here, now, you have the chance to break out of this pattern. And I'm not talking about pretty self-help phrases. I'm talking about the courage to face the fact that if you don't act, you will be acted upon. And I know that deep down you feel this, that nagging feeling that your life could be so much more than it is today. So let's make a deal. If you've realized that in several areas of your life you've been just a piece, comment here. Part. I want to see who is truly willing to face this truth, because only those who embrace their own condition can turn the tables. And pay attention. It's not about perfection. It's not about always getting it right. It's about being aware, because awareness is the first step to changing anything. You may even continue to make mistakes, but now you'll know that you made mistakes by choice, not by lack of control. And that, my friend, changes everything. So stay with me in this video until the end, because I'll show you how to stop being manipulated by the board and start playing for real. If you're tired of being just a piece, this is the time to become a player. Comment game. Now, let's dive together into this reflection that could be the turning point in your life. Because the truth is simple. Either you control the game, or the game controls you. Being just a piece means living life without realizing that each step you take isn't truly yours, but a reflection of external forces you've accepted without question. It's when you live on impulse, like someone who reacts automatically to what happens, without actually making a conscious choice. It's waking up, repeating the same actions, following the same cycle, without ever stopping to consider whether that path was chosen by you or programmed by automatic habits. You can't even remember where they came from. And even worse, you often follow other people's expectations, trying to be accepted, to please, or to fulfill roles that society, your family, or even friends have placed upon you. When you let yourself be carried away by autopilot, you're not playing the game of life. You're just being moved like any other piece, unaware that there's an entire board waiting to be explored by someone who decides to be the player. Life becomes a script written by others, and you simply act without daring to improvise. This is the price of not taking control. You may live, but you don't own your own life. Think of something very simple and recognizable. You pick up your phone and, without realizing it, spend an hour scrolling through a social network that doesn't even add anything to your life. That's being a piece of paper. Or when, at work, you just do what you're told, without asking if it make sense to you, just following orders, because you were taught not to contradict, not to question, to do the right thing. That's being a piece of paper, or even in relationships, when you swallow your feelings and mold yourself to fit someone's expectations, just to maintain approval or avoid conflict. That's being a piece of paper. These situations are so common that they seem normal, but deep down, they show how much we are being driven by conditioning, external pressures, and a system that prefers you to remain distracted. Because the more you get used to living this way, the less you realize you're handing over control of your life to others. This is exactly where many go astray. They confuse living with simply existing. And to exist without awareness is to accept being led, as if your only function were to fill a space that someone has already reserved for you on the chessboard of life. If you've noticed this in yourself, comment part. Because the first step to change is having the courage to admit your own condition. And here's the most uncomfortable, but also the most liberating part. Being just a cog isn't an eternal sentence. It's a daily choice you've allowed to happen. Every time you give in to automatic habit, every time you choose to please instead of taking a stand, every time you choose to silence your voice to save face, you reaffirm your cog role. The system loves it when you live like this, because people who don't question are easy to control. But if you're here, it's because something inside you has already realized there's more. There's a bigger game going on, and it can only be played by those who decide to take responsibility for their choices. It's not easy, because the comfort of being a cog is tempting. You don't have to think, you don't have to risk, you don't have to make mistakes, but you also don't grow, you don't create, you don't achieve anything that's truly yours. So, I challenge you, how long will you accept living like this? How long will you be just another cog repeating movements that don't belong to you? If this question bothers you, it's because you're already on the right path. Recognizing that you've been living like a pawn is painful, but it's also the key to turning things around. So comment now, part, because admitting this publicly is the first step to stop reacting and start taking real action. Have you ever noticed how most people accept life as a piece of shit without ever questioning why? This isn't a coincidence. There's a practical psychology behind this behavior that explains a lot. The first is the fear of judgment. From an early age, we're taught to seek approval from family, teachers, friends, co-workers. And this fear of rejection is so strong that instead of taking risks and taking a stand, people prefer to remain silent, follow the herd, and pretend everything is fine. It's as if every decision is measured by the reactions of others, rather than by what truly makes sense to them. This fear stifles authenticity and causes most people to choose the safe path, the one where no one points a finger, but which also leads nowhere. And therein lies the problem. Fear becomes the greatest of jailers. If you've ever experienced this firsthand, comment fear, because admitting that you have already let fear decide for you is the first step to starting to free yourself. Another reason people remain stuck is the comfort of routine. Routine gives a sense of security, control, and predictability. But here's a truth that will sting a bit. Comfort is a prison with a panoramic view. You look out, see the horizon, but don't move. This false sense of security keeps people trapped in jobs they can't stand, relationships that no longer make sense, and habits that drain their energy. Why? Because breaking out of this bubble requires effort. It requires confronting the unknown, and that's scary. The human brain is programmed to conserve energy and, therefore, prefers to repeat patterns, even if they're bad. It's easier to wake up every day and follow the same script than to create a new one. But easy doesn't mean right. Easy doesn't mean a full life. And every time you choose comfort over change, you reinforce the bars of your own prison. It's like a prisoner who has become so accustomed to their cell that they can no longer imagine life outside it. And there's another silent enemy: procrastination and the pursuit of immediate rewards. How many times have you put off that important decision, that necessary change, that step that could transform your life until tomorrow? Procrastination is the art of self-deception. It's the illusion that you'll have more time, more energy, or more courage in the future. But the future never arrives, because when it does, it's already the present, and the present is filled with the same old excuses. Furthermore, the modern world is addicted to quick rewards, likes, notifications, small doses of immediate pleasure that give a sense of satisfaction, but rob you of your ability to wait, to build, to persist. It's like always taking the shortcut, but never reaching your destination. And here's the irony. This constant pursuit of quick rewards keeps you trapped in an endless cycle of distraction and superficiality. That's why most people accept being a pawn, because it's easier to postpone, easier to seek fleeting pleasures than to face the hardships of discipline and responsibility. But deep down, we all know that this path doesn't lead to freedom. It only leads to stagnation. So if at any point you have noticed that fear, comfort, or procrastination have been taking your place, comment fear down here, because recognizing this pattern is the beginning of turning the key. When many people hear the term control, they imagine rigidity, inflexibility, someone who needs everything their way and doesn't accept the unexpected. But that's not what controlling the game is about. Controlling the game isn't about being controlling. It's about living with purpose. It's about knowing where you're going, what your limits are, and what routines support the life you want to build. It's about understanding that discipline isn't a prison, it's freedom. Those who are conscious of their choices don't need to cling to every detail because they're already clear about what truly matters. You don't need to suffocate life trying to predict every move. You just need to align your actions with your values and goals. And here's the key. When you have a purpose, even the unexpected ceases to be an enemy because you know how to react to it without losing yourself. Real control isn't over the world, it's over yourself. And when you achieve this, you stop being swept along by the winds of circumstance and begin to navigate with direction. Now compare the difference between reacting and acting. Reacting is what the piece does. It waits for the other's move to move. It's a movement that's always dependent, limited, and predictable. Reacting is letting what's happening outside of you dictate how you feel, what you think, and what you do. It's when criticism paralyzes you, a problem knocks you down, or an external opinion controls you. Acting, however, is completely different. Acting is what the player does. They don't wait for the board to move. They create the move. Acting is deciding before chaos. It's putting purpose into choices. It's having the courage to say no when everyone else says yes, and taking responsibility for the consequences. Reacting is living on autopilot. Acting is taking the wheel. And here's the reflection you need to face. In how many areas of your life are you just reacting, waiting for something external to change, when in fact the change should start with you? If you've noticed this difference, comment now, player, because it is exactly this recognition that separates those who awaken from those who remain asleep inside the board. The turning point comes when you understand that controlling the game doesn't mean eliminating uncertainty, but rather not letting it paralyze you. It's about creating conscious routines that support your goals, establishing boundaries that protect your energy, and defining priorities that reflect what truly matters to you. The player doesn't constantly try to put out fires. They build strategies to prevent them from happening. They know they can't control everything, but they know they can control their attitude, their choices, and their habits. This is the difference between living an intentional life and living a life of chance. The player takes an active role, not content to be led. They understand that every conscious action, no matter how small, is a step toward transforming the entire board. And if you want to learn to act, to move beyond passivity, and truly assume this role of protagonist, comment player now. because this simple but powerful decision could be the beginning of the turnaround you've been waiting for. If you've made it this far, you already understand the difference between being a piece and being a player, but now you need something practical, straightforward, and something you can apply in your daily life without fuss. So I'm going to give you a simple 3-step technique to break out of autopilot and start taking real control of your life. The first step is conscience. It seems obvious, but most people are so distracted that they don't even notice their own habits. Today, I want you to observe a single habit or decision you often make without thinking. It could be checking your phone as soon as you wake up, opening the fridge even when you're not hungry, saying yes to something you don't want just to avoid conflict. This act of observation is already revolutionary because it brings light to what was previously invisible. Without awareness, there is no change. And I ask you, what habit most keeps you on autopilot? Choose one and write it in the comments, next to the word action, because just by recognizing it, you are already starting to move forward. The second step is the interruption. Now that you know which habit or impulse dominates you, it's time to break the cycle. But it doesn't have to be anything radical. Just create a small rule that forces you to create space between impulse and action. Let me give you an example. Whenever you feel the urge to pick up your phone, wait 10 minutes before unlocking the screen. Whenever you feel the urge to argue impulsively, take a deep breath and count to 10 before opening your mouth. Whenever you think about procrastinating, give yourself 5 minutes to start. This short pause is powerful because it interrupts the autopilot and gives you back the power of choice. And here's the kicker. This simple rule, repeated every day, begins to reprogram your brain. Because when you create this break, you prove to yourself that you're not a slave to your impulses. And those who aren't slaves to impulses have already taken the first step toward becoming a player. So tell me, which interruption will you try today? Choose and comment below. Action: I want to see who will actually put this into practice. The third step is their placement. There's no point in simply interrupting the cycle if you don't put something in its place. Because if you leave the space empty, the old habit returns with even more force. The key is to replace the impulse with an action aligned with your goal. If you feel like scrolling through your phone, take these minutes to write down your goals for the day. If you always reach for food out of anxiety, replace that impulse with drinking a glass of water or taking a brisk walk. If you tend to procrastinate, use the moment to start with the smallest possible part of the task, because starting small is already winning. It's this process of conscious substitution that transforms autopilot into intentional direction. And it doesn't have to be something grand. It needs to be something consistent. The game of life isn't won with a single move, but with small daily actions that combined completely change the game. So now I challenge you, choose one of these 3 steps: awareness, interruption, or substitution, and comment action along with the step you're going to take, because those who comment commit, and those who commit are already on the path to becoming a real player. Now that you understand the difference between being a piece and a player, it's time to put this theory into practice, because knowledge without action is just another decoration in the mind's closet. So I want to propose a simple challenge, but one that can completely change the way you view your power of choice. For 7 days, just 1 week, choose an impulse that usually sabotages you and don't give in to it. It could be the urge to check your phone every minute, the need to automatically respond to everything asked, the habit of opening the fridge when you're not hungry, or the habit of procrastinating on what really matters. You'll write it down, observe it, and then come back here to report back. This little experiment is real proof that you have more control than you think. Because if you can resist an impulse for 7 days, you've already proven to yourself that you're not hostage to your patterns. The game isn't won with a single move, but with small, conscious choices that, repeated, change the entire board. And I want this challenge to be not just an individual exercise, but a collective one as well. Because when you share, you commit even more. So here's the rule. Every day you resist the urge, come here and comment with a word that sums up your victory. It could be strength, resisted, overcame, any word that represents that you weren't dominated by the habit. And if you prefer, at the end of the 7 days, come back and leave a comment telling us how that experience went. This interaction isn't just about engagement, it's about creating a space for public accountability. Because when you declare, when you write, when you commit out loud, you increase your chances of actually following through. It's not about proving anything to me, it's about proving to yourself that you can choose to act instead of just reacting. And each comment will be like a mark on the board, a reminder that you're building new moves. So here's my direct invitation. Comment now. Challenge. If you're willing to participate, don't comment just for the sake of commenting. Comment to make a commitment to yourself. 7 days may seem short, but it's enough to light the spark that can turn into a fire. And I want to see who will have the courage to put into practice what they learned here, because most listen, get excited for a few minutes, and then go back to their play life. But the player doesn't do that. The player tests, applies, practices. This challenge is simple, but the transformation it can generate is profound. So if you want to turn this game around, don't put it off. Comment, challenge. Choose the impulse you'll face and come back in 7 days to tell me how it went. Because it's in this commitment to small actions that freedom begins to stop being a speech and becomes a reality. We've reached the final moment, and this is where I want you to grasp the essence of everything we've discussed so far. The sentence that opens and closes this thought process is simple, direct, and impossible to ignore. If you don't control the game, you're just a piece. Control is freedom, and when I say control, I don't mean being rigid, controlling, or inflexible, but being aware, purposeful, knowing where you're going, and having the courage to stand by your choices. It's looking at the board of life and, instead of waiting for others to make their move, deciding your own. If until now you've realized you were just reacting, that's okay, because the turning point can begin right now, in this instant. It's in this silent but firm decision that the player is born, and I'm not going to sugarcoat anything here. Either you choose to take control, or you'll continue living as a disposable piece in a game that was never yours. If this video made you think, if it moved you, if it took you out of your comfort zone, then don't keep it to yourself. Leave a like if this cut you off, because then I know this message found the right target. More than that, share this video with someone you know who is living on autopilot, because sometimes the jolt someone needs may come from you. Change doesn't happen in isolation. Individual transformation can have a ripple effect. Maybe someone close to you is stuck on autopilot and just needs to hear that there's another way. And you can be the conduit for that change. So don't underestimate the power of clicking share. It may be small for you, but it can be huge for the recipient. Now, the most important point. I want you to leave your final choice in the comments. Just write the word control if you've decided to be a player and no longer ask. But don't stop there. Next to that word, write down what small rule you'll start applying today to take control of your life. It could be waiting 10 minutes before giving in to an impulse. It could be writing down an automatic habit you want to change. It could be setting a clear limit that you've never had the courage to impose until now. What matters isn't the size of the rule, but the decision to put it into practice. Because freedom isn't born from theory, it's born from action. So comment, control, make this commitment, and show yourself that today was the day you decided to turn the tables.